and welcome to this special show on the ABCZ project. I'm your host, Tony Della Flora. We rarely associate the words groundbreaking or innovative with zoning codes or comprehensive plans, but when the ABCZ project is completed and the overhaul of city zoning codes and planning regulations is achieved, we may well be using them in the same sentence. With me today to discuss the latest developments on a project that will shape the city's growth for the next generation are Andrew Webb, policy analyst for the City Council, and City Planner Michaela Renz-Whitmore. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Last time we were discussing this, it sounded like you guys had a huge task ahead of you, and still do. But before we get into that, let's tell people again what this ABCZ project is all about.
Absolutely. So the A stands for Albuquerque, BC is Bernalillo County. So together, the city and the county are working on an update to the jointly adopted comprehensive plan. That's a policy document that sets a community vision. And the Z part is for the city only, and that stands for zoning.
Okay.
So within the city only, we're moving on from the planning for the comprehensive plan to rework, radically overhaul our zoning framework within the city.
Okay, all right. Well, you've spent the better part, you being the planning staff and with Andrew's help, spent the better part of a year taking input from staff and the public about the draft revisions to the plan and the zoning code. Why? Why would you do this?
Well, there's really two things going on. One is we have a current comprehensive plan that sets out a vision that instead of growing forever outward in kind of a sprawl pattern, we should concentrate our energy on bringing development along corridors and into designated centers where we expect it and where it's wanted.
Right.
And we suspected that that vision was still going to hold true. That was first added to the comprehensive plan in 2001, and we suspected it was still a good vision. And so we went out and did a lot of visioning with the community and workshops and focus groups to make sure that that was still the vision, and it still seems to be. And then we also needed to talk about our current zoning framework and why it doesn't work right now for neighbors, for property owners, for developers, or for city staff.
Okay.
And that has been a big learning curve for everybody, trying to understand why the system that they know pretty well, even though it may not work very well for them, really needs to be radically overhauled.
Okay, okay. Well, Andrew, how did those public meetings go? What kind of suggestions did you get? What were people concerned about most?
Well, we thought the public meetings went very well. We're very happy with the high turnout and a great variety of really interested and engaged people. We were, as expected, they did confirm to a large degree that the existing centers and corridors growth policy still appeared to be the best way to handle the expected growth of the city. The concerns that were expressed are common concerns about density is always a challenge for neighborhoods, and then in general the public process, the look and feel of things, and the way that the roads and the transportation systems and the development interact. People wanted to make sure that we were getting a good matchup between the infrastructure and the development, and that they could know what to expect with new development.
I'll just add on to that in terms of transportation, there were certainly concerns expressed about car traffic and congestion, but there was also a really big emphasis on walking and biking, and more than I've ever seen, I think, in public meetings, a real emphasis on what we planners tend to call multimodal transportation. In other words, having lots of choices about how to get around the city and getting around safely, and those connections for pedestrians and cyclists and transit users really rose for me to a high priority.
Okay, okay. I wanted to ask you, I'm sure neither one of you were around last time the comprehensive plan was changed or the zoning code was
I was living
overhauled.
here.
You were living here, okay. As a small child.
I was young.
And was there a sense of, from the public, was it like, oh great, we've finally get a chance to do this again or get our input in? Were people excited about that?
I think people actually are a bit nervous. They feel there's a large segment of the population that feels that the 1988 comprehensive plan was quite progressive and set a high priority on open space and trying to think about growth and smart growth. And I think people are a little bit worried that we're going to water down the emphasis on those kind of progressive policies. And I think we're trying to reassure people that instead of watering anything down, what we're really trying to do is connect some dots, that currently the land use and the transportation in the comprehensive plan are okay, but they're not integrated. They're not fully pulled together. Right. And so I think we have this opportunity now to look at how those policies are working and really re-knit them to be a tighter fabric.
Okay.
Yeah, so in other words, we've had, since the original adoption and the last major overhaul of the comprehensive plan, we've actually adopted small amendments to the comprehensive plan that do reflect some more modern planning practices, and the neighborhoods have supported and worked on kind of area-specific modernization of their policies and regulations as well. What that has left, however, is a huge amount of out-of-date material, both in the comprehensive plan and in other planning documents that are inconsistent and often don't match up, conflict with one another, that sort of thing. So the goal here is to kind of take the good stuff that's been done more recently and make sure some of the rest of the body of all this work kind of matches up with it.
Right. Well, just to get back to your previous point about people being sort of nervous, you did put in the at least the draft I saw some guiding principles about what you're really going to focus on, and I think that's important. Strong neighborhoods was one of the things.
Absolutely.
Economic vitality, sustainability. Talk a little bit about those and why you wanted to emphasize those again.
They really came out of the community workshops and the focus groups that we've done. So the comprehensive plan currently doesn't have a chapter on neighborhoods or even really a focus on neighborhoods. It talks a lot about protections for the character of individual and distinct places, but not really as neighborhoods. And so that really rose to the top in all of our public meetings as something, neighborhoods as the fabric of our city. The sustainability discussion, I think, was in the 1988 comprehensive plan, but it's spotty. It's only here and there. And really the idea behind the guiding principles is that they would become woven through all the chapters and make sure that the community values that they represent really are brought into everything that we think about in the comprehensive plan.
Right. Okay. And one of the other things you mentioned, equity. What does that mean exactly as a guiding principle?
As a guiding principle, I think equity means allowing for the equal participation of everybody, of all people, including disadvantaged folks in neighborhoods, and equal opportunity as well to participate in processes and to participate in economic development and the creation of employment and of place.
Yeah. And is this something that was not reflected in the previous plan or was not as emphasized?
I don't think it's really mentioned explicitly. It may be implicit in some of the way that the policies were structured, but I think one of the really tough questions and right-on questions that we got at many of the meetings actually was, okay, let's talk about Central for a second. We see that there's public investment in downtown around Innovate ABQ and other things, and there's public investment in Nob Hill where you've got bulb outs and other things that improve walkability for pedestrians, et cetera. Why don't we see the same level of public investment in the International District? Also on Central, also lots of pedestrians.
Good question.
What is that about? Good question, right? And hard to answer. And so at least the comprehensive plan will now say there should be equitable public investment throughout the city, and it will provide a metric or a performance measure that we can kind of check over time. How are we spending our money as a city and a county? Where are we spending our money? And are there places that are getting overlooked and maybe we can address in future capital improvement project budgets, et cetera?
I think that's a very important discussion. Maybe of all the things you have in here, maybe one of the key ones. I mean, I know for decades there's been a discussion within APS, for instance, that certain schools get the resources, certain schools don't, and that's a sore point, obviously, in a lot of communities. So it sounds great that this is going to be written as part of the policy. So one of the things, now one of the reasons we're here, I want to give us some time to talk about this, is people actually have some stuff to read. Now, if they've given all the input, you guys have put it back out in a draft form, part of the revised zoning code and part of the basically vision for the comprehensive plan. Tell me about that, Andrew.
Sure. So what one of the things that we have out now for public review is Module 1 of the Integrated Development Ordinance, which is the regulatory side of this project. And Module 1 looks at a new set of zoning districts or categories. It has, about a dozen of them compared to what we have now, which is anywhere from 500 to 700, depending on who you ask. Wow. And Module 1 lists out and describes some of the intent of each of those categories and describes the variation between intensity of each. And so those are mixed-use categories, commercial categories, residential zone categories, that sort of thing. And then it also demonstrates and provides for public review the method by which the uses that would be allowed in each of those zones will be described in this new document in essentially an easily readable use table, as opposed to the repeated lists that we have in each of the zone categories we have now. And then we also have the draft vision for the comprehensive plan. It has also been out for review for
Since
about
September.
a month and a half, yeah. And that is, I would describe that as kind of an overarching summary of the intent and goals of this comprehensive plan update. So both of these documents are available for people to review. We have presented both of them as well at several public meetings, but people can go read them anytime and provide any input they'd like.
Yeah. So basically, you're looking for some consent and approval and backing on, are you guys going in the right direction, essentially?
Certainly for the vision, even more so than Module 1. I think for the zoning, we're really going to roll it out in 3 chunks. And that this first chunk, I think, is a bite-sized piece of what will ultimately replace our zoning code. And it's very complicated. Zoning just is.
Yeah.
We're trying to make it as easy to review as we can, which is why we're breaking it into those 3 different releases. So it's been frustrating for some people that they don't have all the information. How can I review this first piece when I don't know all the details?
Right.
And we can only say, trust us, you don't want it all at once. So we'd really like people to spend a lot of time with this first one, trying to understand what are the newly proposed zones and what kind of uses are allowed in each.
Okay.
In the spring, the second module that comes out will address some of those things that I think people are always concerned about, like building height and setbacks and some of the design standards that go along with zoning. But as Michaela said, we would like to kind of start with a review of the mix of uses and find out if people think that what we're proposing is appropriate.
Okay. We've just got a couple minutes left, but I want to let people know how they can continue to participate in this. I understand you've got a series of hearings that are going to start at the end of November? Is that?
They're not really hearings, they're focus groups.
Focus groups,
So for each chapter of the comprehensive plan, we're going to have a focus group. So if you're interested in transportation, let's say, there's going to be an hour and a half devoted just to the transportation chapter, and one for land use and one for open space, etc. So all of those focus groups happen the week of November 30th through December 4th, and all of them are listed on our website, which is www.abc-zone.com, so abczone.com.
Okay. ABC, okay.
And our contact information is also there if you have any questions.
Okay. And then if you could sort of just quickly outline, what is the process for this? Once there's sort of a consensus on this, what happens?
Sure. So the comprehensive plan, we're hoping gets put all together in December and January. We release that to the public, have some open houses both in the city and the county to kind of walk people through it, get comments, and then that will enter the review and approval process first for the city, then for the county. And the city has multiple steps. It goes first to the Planning Commission, then to a committee of the council, then to full council for adoption, and then it'll go through the county's side. So very similar, they have a planning commission, and then it goes to the full county commission. So both city and county have to adopt that comprehensive plan. For the zoning, we'll continue on for another year, releasing the modules as Andrew mentioned, and by fall of 2016, we hope to put all of the zoning together into that integrated development ordinance that then goes through the city's process, so the planning commission and the full city council to adopt.
Okay, so again, that was my next point. It's going to go, the city council and the county commission will be the final arbiters on this. And
For the comprehensive plan. For the zoning, only the city council has to act.
great, okay. And again, they can go to www.abc-zone.com to get more information. And I noticed I was on there, you can actually put your comments right online there, so you don't even have to leave the comfort of your home. You can do this in your pajamas.
You can. Please do.
Great. Well, I think that's all we have time for, but I want to thank Andrew Webb and Michaela Renz-Whitmore for joining me today. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.